Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. Come on in, pour yourself a drink, and join us out on the deck as we inspire, encourage, and empower one another to live authentic, audacious, above only lives. It's all right here at the Beach House. Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. What's up, Mo?
What's happening? Happy, wait, what is today? Sunday.
It is Sunday. It's Sunday as far as I know. Yes.
Yeah.
And I am on the ball.
Literally. Hi, Noah.
Hi.
What's going down, man?
Oh, nothing much. Just enjoying my day off.
And he's spinning it with us.
And I'm spinning it with you guys.
Only an hour, dude. Like,
I
shut up.
I have a very strict no work on Sunday rule. So
Oh, well, this is for Jesus.
exactly. This is for charity.
Yes. This is for charity.
The charity. Well,
Yes.
we are on part 2 of Unshaken, the GBS comeback.
Yes.
And so last time, if you didn't catch the episode, go back and watch it because we were talking about all of the prelim things that kind of led up to Noah pretty much imploding. So
Yeah.
go back and watch that because, there's a lot of stuff going on. So
Yes.
we are in part 2 now where we actually got a diagnosis.
Yes.
We went through a lot of some crazy symptoms last time and went through a lot of tests, which came back normal, and finally got a diagnosis after a spinal tap of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I was looking, I got something off of Facebook today that showed up, and it was saying that they're going to be moving Noah to Medical City downtown. So I was looking at that, and literally 8 days, it took 8 days to go from being great to paralyzed.
What?
That is crazy.
Wait, how did we get to paralyzed? Wait, whoa.
Yeah, you
Whoa.
skipping
Back
quite
up.
a lot.
I'm just saying. It was fast. It was a fast thing that just came in and just boom. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we left off when we were being transferred over to Medical City and Alliance for and got diagnosed and got admitted into the hospital and everything. And we first started finding out what it was because we had no idea. And so that was our intro into it. So kind of fill us in where you were at that time, figuring out, what they were saying, and where was your mindset at back then?
So I think a lot of the times, whenever I talk, at least when people ask me about everything that happened, they don't. It always jumps straight to the paralyzed part, which that is a big part, obviously a big part of the story. But
Mhm.
I think, at least from my memory, the first
Because we had like 3 days
I was
that
gonna
we
say
were in Medical City Alliance, and it was just kind of getting worse and worse from there.
I think the 3 days at Medical City Alliance was probably the worst 3 days. At least to me, there were three of the worst days
Because there
out
was no
out of
medication.
out of everything. So because the reason why I think it was the worst 3 days is because once I got transferred after the paralysis and all of that, that's when they were able to have the green light with actually giving me like some hardcore pain medication. And so the 3 days at Medical City Alliance was basically me just
They were
kind of
still
just
trying to figure it out.
yeah, basically just trying to, kind of just fight through everything as best as possible. And so those were three of the worst days because it's so I guess before I jump the gun, it's like I'm trying to go as in chronological order as possible. And
As
so,
you can remember, right?
yes. So after I got the diagnosis of what it
Okay.
was, obviously I didn't know the full extent of what it was, and so I didn't realize how far it was going to go beyond that point. So I wasn't that nervous about what was going to happen because I thought that what I was experiencing was going to be the worst of it. And so,
Oh.
yeah, like I didn't fully grasp what was going to happen. Like at that point, the first day, I had already lost the ability to move my feet. My feet were pretty my feet and legs were already at that point, you know, immovable, but I was still able to move my hands. I was still able to move my arms. I was still able to talk. I was still able to breathe. I was still, for the most part, able to eat and drink. And so,
Okay.
I had like the first day, I had a couple people visit me, bring me some meals. I remember one of them was Caleb Mayer, uh, and he brought me, I believe it was like Panera bread. And all I remember is feeling bad because like he brought me all this food and like I tried to eat it, but because swallowing was getting difficult, I just like I could not eat as like that much. But I was still pretty grateful for it. But then I was like,
Now,
yeah.
pain wise, this is day one. You've gotten your diagnosis.
Hmm.
So the bottom half of your body is pretty much paralyzed,
Yeah.
right? And so no pain medicine. Are you in pain?
So at that point, yeah, my back was really sore, but it wasn't like, you know, I think if I remember correctly, it's like I can't remember. I think they were able to give me like Tylenol or something like that, something to
Yeah, it
somewhat,
was very
yeah,
mild.
something to
Mm-hmm.
eat, but they couldn't because they didn't like because they
They weren't sure.
yeah, they weren't completely sure yet. It's like I still wasn't able to get like full pain medication. So it's like my pain as it wasn't like excruciating on the first day. It was just more of me just laying there thinking, I'm like, well, this sucks. I'm gonna be in the hospital for like, probably.
So, but they gave you the diagnosis that it of the name and everything, right?
And
So, did they
find all
explain to you like the okay? So he's got this, and these are the things that we're going to start doing since we know what it is. Like, are they trying to stop the process?
Well, here's the thing. Nobody had actually had a case of Guillain-Barré before. So when the doctor came in and
What?
talked to me about it, he
Yeah.
said, I've never seen a case before. I've heard of it.
Ever?
Yeah, well, like
No.
almost,
Oh my
I would
God.
say, yeah,
No
I
one
would say
had
like even whenever we moved to the
to
to
the
the
larger
different
hospital.
facility, the majority
Yeah.
of all the doctors and all of the nurses that I
Our
had.
main neurologist, he'd never treated a case before. He'd
So is this in the state of Texas? This has never been seen before. Like it is
Well, it's not that
that rare?
it's never been seen. It's
it's
just
rare.
because
It's
of
so rare.
how rare it was. Like
It's just they're
nobody.
not treating it because nobody's coming in with it. So it's not something that it's not like, coming in with a heart attack. None of the doctors had experienced this before. All they had was book knowledge about it.
Yeah. So
So
that's day one, right?
so
So
when they came in, they talked to me and they said, well, from what we understand, these are some things that may happen because it attacks the nervous system, our lungs and heart rate and all of that are all a part of that. So he may experience trouble breathing. And if that happens, we'll have to, go through these steps and whatnot. So they gave me a list of things that could happen.
Yeah. And
oh, okay.
they communicated it with me as well. Like they told me that, hey, if your lungs start to shut down too much because they're like your lungs are a muscle, if your lungs start to shut down too much and you're breathing, because they were monitoring, like they had me on a CPAP, they had me with the mask, the little nose
Mhm.
things the whole time. And, they were keeping an eye on my oxygen levels and everything. And they were like, basically, if you get to this certain
Yeah.
point, we'll have
Hmm.
to take further measures, but we're going to keep an eye on it. And so at
It was
that
always,
at,
if you get to
yeah,
this,
at
then we
that
have to do this.
at that point, it was just them monitoring me for a couple days. And so that's what the first like 3 days was it was just them keeping an eye on it, seeing if it was getting worse or if it was going to get better. And
And it
so
was getting worse.
yeah. So it's like as the first day went on, it was really like when it really, really started to hit me was at nighttime. And so just because it's like, you know, we like at least I didn't realize just how important sleep is. And it's like this is when it really, really started to hit me because as night went on, and it's like as the days progressed, the pain in my back started getting worse and worse. And then like I just was not able to sleep. And so those first like 3 days, every night I was probably getting maybe like an hour of sleep max, if that. And it was just really starting to take a toll on me mentally. And I was like by far the most emotional like out of the entire hospital stint, I was by far the most emotional in like the first, 3 days than I was of any other time, just because I hadn't gotten any kind of like full pain medication yet. And at that point, it was
Oh,
just pretty much 3 days straight of just staying awake and like rolling
Mhm.
back and forth in pain. And yeah.
And one of the things that stuck out to me is, Nicholas and Shelby stayed over. We always had somebody there trying to stay the night with him,
Mhm.
so he wasn't alone. And Nicholas and Shelby spent the night with him. I think it was the second night or something like that. And I got a call like, I don't know, it was around 1 in the morning or so.
Mhm.
And Nicholas was just like, I need you to talk to Noah. He's having a really hard time. And I got on the phone with him, and that's when the dam broke.
Yeah.
And
oh,
he just fell apart. And I remember he kept saying, I want daddy, I want daddy.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
It
yeah.
that was the hardest night for me.
That was the hardest night for me also. I remember that night like the back of my hand. It's like that night, there's a lot that people don't realize how much I remember, but that night I remember like beginning to end. Like that night is like engraved in my brain. I remember just laying there and it was just like I was so uh just absolutely not I'm
Exhausted,
exhausted. I'm not going to say delusional because I was in my right mind. I was just completely
God.
overwhelmed and tired.
just
I was
broken.
like, I was emotionally exhausted. I was physically exhausted. I had no, like, I was in pain. And I remember it's like all of the emotions that I had that I kind of suppressed about like wanting my dad and missing my dad kind of like in that night just absolutely poured out. And like I remember just for it felt like, like I just started bawling my eyes out. I couldn't sleep. I was like, I just need to sleep. I want to sleep. And then like I remember, begging the nurse that was on staff. He was a younger Hispanic dude. But I remember begging him like, please just give me something to help to knock me out. I'm like, I need to sleep. And then like Nicholas and Shelby were like, is there absolutely nothing that you can give him? And then he's like, I'm sorry, the doctors say we're not able to give him anything just yet while we're still figuring things out. We don't know how it's going to affect his because it was be basically it's like it was my breathing that they were most concerned.
Oh, okay.
And so they were like, we don't
They
know
didn't want
yet
anything to
to if
labor
they
that,
give
shut it
him,
down.
yeah, they're like, he's already having a hard enough time breathing as it is. So they're like, if we give him, you know, uh hardcore pain medication, which is what I needed, if we give him hardcore drugs,
Yeah, I can slow it
we don't
stop his
know if it's
heart.
gonna we don't know how it's gonna affect you know, his breathing. It's like it could, you know, make him stop breathing, and then that's a really bad day. And so, yeah, like I remember just bawling my eyes out, and at that point, I'm like, you know, I'm like, I want daddy, I want my dad. I'm like, where? It's like, well, I wasn't asking where he was, I knew where he was, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I need him here with me right now. And then,
And I'm just trying to, you
yeah,
know, do whatever I can to just
yeah.
calm him down, you
So
know?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
at that point, there was my dad left recordings for
Yeah.
all of us on, you know, for all of us to listen to. And so I remember this is what actually ended up, you know, calming me down. And I don't think it put me to sleep, but it ended up like relieving my, like my,
All the
all the
anxiety.
anxiety that I was feeling. And so she told Nicholas to put on the recording that was for me. And so then I think it was on an iPad, but he ended up just turning it on. And like I was just laying there in the bed listening to the recording that my dad had left for me. And that's what ended up getting me to calm down. But it was just like, and then on top of that, you know, as the next day comes and then like I can't remember if it was in the first day or the second day or whenever it was, or even if it was the third day. But I remember a bunch of people, a bunch of my couple of my friends, and then a bunch of people from Nicholas's church ended up coming to the hospital, and they were able to like wheel me out of the room, and like we all sat in a circle
That was
in
really
the
sweet.
waiting room, and you know we prayed and we sang together and stuff like that. But
'Cause
even
they wheeled out the whole bed
yeah,
because there's
Oh, wow.
nobody in the waiting room there. So they just wheeled the whole bed out and all the friends and everything were able to be around. And
yeah, I
that
remember.
was really nice.
One thing that kind of makes me laugh too, and it's like it's not funny, but to me it's funny because it's like there's a lot of things that aren't funny about that whole situation, but
But
because
you have to laugh.
but yeah, because I was the one that was like on the brink of death, like I can look back and laugh at it. But uh like there was I remember uh some of our friends there I was talking to them and I looked at them and with just like tears running down my face. Again, it's like the only thing that really gets me super emotional is lack of sleep. If I'm like if I don't have
Mhm.
proper sleep, I just like it I lose can at least at then, you know, I lose control of my emotions. And I remember it's like I hadn't slept for like 2, 3 days and then like they wheeled me up to a window. So stupid. They wheeled me up to a window of the like
So
of
you
the
can look
hallway,
outside.
and
Yeah.
I look outside at the sun and like tears rolling down my face, and I look up at our friends the Skinners, and I'm like I haven't been outside in 3 days, and it's like
Dang.
I'm just bawling my eyes out, and then I'm like I just miss being outside so much. And then like I look back at that now and I'm like, man, if I had known at that point that I wouldn't be outside for like two
Too much.
months, I'm like
Holy crap.
3 days was absolutely a drop in
You
the
were like at the beginning of it, right?
yeah, I'm like I was like over the top emotional about the
Shoot.
fact that I hadn't been outside or felt the air or the sun in three
Can't feel the
days.
sun on my
And
face.
then like now after everything was over, I'm like, God, I had no clue what was coming. But
Can
yeah.
I interject?
Yeah, of
I have
course.
to interject this. The last time I talked to John on the
Mm,
phone, I told him, I said, John, you have to leave the kids something. I
mm,
said, make sure you record something for each of those kids that they can hold on to because they're going to grab onto that when you're not here anymore. So just like everything that you want to tell them and teach them or whatever, say in a video or a taping or something. And the Lord had me say I didn't have that filter of like if you're not going to pass. It was just straight the Lord saying talk to him because he's coming home
mm.
and I he needs to leave something for the kids.
Yeah.
Period. That you need to tell him because
About
I called you. I woke up in the middle of the night and I called you to tell you this is what the Lord's telling me, and I'm blown right now because Was
Yeah.
it, you needed that.
Yeah. And I talked to him about that and I told him, I said, hey babe, we gotta do something. I need you to put something down for the kids. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. And he just kept putting it off. And I finally told him, I said, because he was starting to get to the place where it was hard for him to talk.
Talk. Yeah.
I said, Johnny, we have to do this now.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, we'll do it now.
And I think that was the day I called you.
Probably. I
God,
mean,
and that was the last time I talked to John.
Yeah. Which to this day, it's like I don't listen to it often because it's very difficult for me to listen to it. But
mhm.
to this day, if I've been having like a really, really hard time or like I've just been super overwhelmed with the business and all of that, all every now and then if I'm just by myself, I'll pull out my phone and I'll just play it to myself and just listen. I probably listened to it maybe like since since everything has happened, I've probably only listened to it maybe like two times max,
Yeah,
just because it's very
it's
difficult.
hard. I mean, I used to do the same thing. I used to listen to mine
Yeah,
all while you were in the hospital and stuff. I used to listen to that all the time because
yeah,
it was just like I needed that comfort there.
yeah,
Yeah.
And we never talked about him passing away. We never talked about that because we were going to stay on the faith side. And I remember there was this one day that he looked at me and he wrote down on a piece of paper, "I'm dying, aren't I?" And I didn't say anything. I just looked at him and I just shook my head.
yeah. And I remember it's like
Yeah.
I had a similar conversation with him. The day that I will never forget I know exactly what day it was. The date, I couldn't tell you that, but I know exactly when it happened because a friend of mine from California, which I was actually just supposed to hang out with her and a few other friends over the 4th of July weekend, but we had to cancel because of rain because they moved to San Antonio recently. But a friend of mine was out here from California and they were in Dallas. And so I drove to Dallas that day, hung out with them for a couple hours, and then drove back here. And after I had gotten back, the hospice nurse or whatever was at the house, and she, was she was talking with she talked with me and she talked with my mom, and then after after she had gone away and left, or either she was in a different room or she had left the house, something like that. I remember me and my dad were just standing on the porch and we were just, standing in the sun, just, you know, looking up out at the front yard. And, he told me, he's like, because I guess she didn't really talk with him
No.
about it. She just,
Mm.
and so he asked me, he's like, I'm not, it's not getting better, is it? And I told him, I'm like, it's not. And then he told me, he's like, he's like, I'm not ready to go. I don't want to die. And then I'm like, I understand. I was like, none of us want you to. But I told him, I'm like, it's okay though. Because I told him, I'm like, we're we're going to be okay. I'm like, you've done your job. You you took care of all of us. You taught us everything that we needed to know to manage all of this. And then he's like, I feel like I should still be taking care of you guys. I should still be here. And I told him, I'm like, I know, but I'm like, you don't have to worry. I'm like, I'll take care of my mom. And I'm like, we're gonna be okay. I'm like, it's gonna be hard. I'm like, for a while. And I'm like, obviously we'll all be torn up, but as far as surviving, I'm like, you've shown us everything that we need to survive. I'm like, so we're going to be okay. And I'm like, you can, and then I told him, I'm like, we all know, that time in heaven is not the same as time on earth. And so I'm like, by the time you open up your eyes in heaven, we're gonna be right there with you. I'm like, it's not like you're gonna have to wait a really long time. I'm like, basically, the only people that are gonna
It's
have to
us.
go through it is us. I was like, when you open your eyes, we'll already be up there with you. And so I'm like, you're not gonna feel anything. I was like, or miss anything. I was like, we're gonna have to go through it, but I'm like, we're gonna be okay. I was like, you've done your job, and you can relax and just, you know, be at peace as best as you can with that. And so,
It's amazing how you have to, it's if people have ever gone through a family member or somebody close to you that's passing,
mm,
going to the next, place or whatever, that release conversation that you had
Hmm.
mm,
always has to happen.
it
Yeah,
does.
it does.
Somewhere within that whole transition period is what they call it. That conversation needs to happen. Otherwise, they will hold on longer than they need to.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So we're at day 3,
Hmm.
no sleep,
No, yeah,
and
Yeah.
at the same hospital at this point, correct?
yeah.
And it continued to just escalate.
So yeah, at this point, it was I remember it was after the last thing I told you was that we had that big group of friends come, and I remember, it's like it cracks me up because my doctor's always just from the time I freaking got to the hospital
Yeah.
to the time that I was finally able to talk again, my doctors always assumed that my hearing was messed up as well. And so let me give you a rundown of everything within the span of that 3 days that
Yes.
started to happen to me physically, because a lot of people don't realize that it was a lot more than just like the paralysis that I started to feel.
Mhm.
So within that 3 days, it started
Hmm.
off with the legs and was slowly moving up the body. It was getting harder and harder for me to breathe, which is why we had to put the CPAP on. And then while in that 3 days, it was getting harder for me to move my arms and my hands as well. Like I was losing the ability to close my hands. I was losing the ability to lift my arms. I completely lost the ability to sit up. And so like the physical therapists at the hospital, they would come and like once or twice a day, they would sit me up on the edge of the bed, and I would just have to work on holding myself up as best as I can. But then by the end of those 3 days at Medical City Alliance, my vision had started getting blurry as well. And I started going cross-eyed. And so, not literally cross-eyed, but I started seeing cross-eyed.
See,
And so I was seeing like two of everything. And so it's like if you stood directly in front of me, I couldn't see you clearly. You had to stand on the side of me for me to be able to see you properly. And so my vision started going as well, and then the breathing started going. And then I remember after that group came to the hospital, my doctor, Dr. Nair, he told my mom, I don't know if they were off in the hallway or something, but he's like, I'm happy that you guys have all of these people here for him, but you can't keep doing this because having him talk for these long periods of time is really starting to exhaust him, and it's making it harder for him, and he's getting really labored with his breathing if he does all of this talking. So you have to try and get him to stop talking so much.
and at that point, he had pulled me aside too, because I told him, I said, I don't want you talking in front of my son. Whatever we need to talk about, I don't want him having that burden.
Yeah.
Right.
I want him focused on being well. And so I said, whatever you need to talk about, let's take it outside. So he told me that his breathing was getting labored more and more. And he said if it did not improve, they were going to transfer him over to the other hospital that had a higher intensive care unit and could really cover all of that. And so I was already kind of prepared in that direction. And they ended up doing that night, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, it was that night. So, it's interesting now hearing that you were the one that said to like not talk about it in front of me, because in like looking back on it, I wish I could have heard everything, because I'm a very straightforward person, and I there was a lot of questions that I asked you
Hmm.
know, like I asked the doctors that I just wanted a straightforward answer so that I could figure out, okay, what do I have to beat? Not like,
Mm,
I think, I don't think, with the questions, I don't they weren't avoiding anything. I told him if he wants to know something, let him know. But I don't want you coming in here saying, well, we had this test and this went wrong and da 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 da. I did not want that
mm,
because all I wanted you to do was focus on healing.
yeah,
I didn't want you focused on, well, his breathing is getting more labored and he looks like he's about to collapse on it. I did not want that. So
yeah,
I said, you talk to me about that. Do not talk to him about that. If
yeah,
he has a question, answer it, but don't come in here with a bunch of negative stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And that was I was very
that makes sense.
dramatic about that with everybody. I told anybody who came, I don't want any negativity in here.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
going to be tolerated. All I want him to do is focus on healing, and that is it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to come in here and fall apart, don't come.
So yeah, at that night, um, which we can pause once we move to the next facility, because that's when things really like got into full swing. So,
But we can move over there now.
well, I'm working on
We
it,
can
but
move there.
you know,
He's scooting. He's
I'm
scooting on.
I'm
He's
working on it.
scooting.
But
He's scooting.
yeah, so we
Do
well,
you do you remember anything else as far as like things that were shutting down? The feelings of the. By now, you said you're still on Tylenol.
or something. I couldn't tell you.
Like something gentle, gentle, Ben, whatever.
So I knew we were like they told me we were what was gonna happen. And I knew,
Because they moved him like about 11:30 at night.
yeah, it was in the middle of the night,
And that
and
was when it
Mm.
was raining too.
like whenever my breathing was getting really hard. So I knew, I was like, okay, I'm like they're like they told me I was gonna be intubated, and which for people listening that don't know what intubation is, it's whenever basically if you cannot breathe yourself, they hook you up to a machine and they stick a tube down your throat into your lungs, and then the machine does the breathing for you. And so
Oh my God.
I knew I was gonna have to be intubated just because like they told me exactly, they're like, okay, if your oxygen saturation gets to, I guess, this certain point, because it's like you should be as close to 100% as possible. Like
Hmm.
most people, whenever they breathe naturally, it's around like 98 to 99%, you know, and that's the goal. And so it's like I was at that point probably getting into like I don't know, like the
The 60s.
60s. Yeah, the
Yeah,
60s or
they were
so,
like at 60, they were saying.
something like that. And so they told me, they were like, if you get to this certain point, we're gonna have to intubate you because you're not gonna be able to breathe on your own anymore. And I'm like, all right, let's do it to it, whatever. And so yeah, that night it had just gotten too low. And so they're like, we're gonna transfer you to a larger facility that can better take care of you. And so, they packed me up, they moved me over. And then it was always interesting because the rides in the ambulances you know were always interesting to me because it's like they were always so blunt and straightforward with me, other than like the doctors and the nurses who are always trying to think of like that bedside manner. They're like, Gia, like you get in the ambulance, and then like the EMTs are like, Guillain-Barré, huh? They're like, that's a new one. Or they're like, they're like, oh, I've heard of that, but yeah, I've never actually seen this before. Very interesting. They're like, what are you feeling? And then I've just,
Oh.
they're like, yeah, I would just tell them what was going on. And then they're like, wow, man, so you can't move anything, huh? And then I'm like, no, no, I'm
Not
like,
today.
no, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Started at my feet, worked my way up, and
So
I'm like,
he
yeah,
he's in the ambulance. Sydney and I are riding behind.
yeah. And
And
Hmm.
yeah, and then they move we get to uh Medical City, Fort Worth, which is the larger location in the hospital district. And then they transfer me over. I move up to the room, and then at that point, again, it's in the middle of the night. Uh, And like
It's like we're past mid. I
yeah.
think we were around 12:30 then.
Yeah, and so they moved me into my room in the ICU, and I at that point they told me they're like, all right, you know, we're gonna be performing some intubation on you, so we're gonna get you know, we're gonna have the
They're like, the good news is
yeah.
you get some medication
Yeah,
now.
they're like, you know, everything, they're like all the pain meds and everything that you need, they're like now's you're able to have it now. They're like, so the anesthesiologist or the anes is am I saying that correct?
Yeah,
But
anesthesiologist.
they're like, you know, they're gonna come in, they're gonna put you to sleep and then we're gonna start the procedure after you've, you know, fallen asleep.
Police say put you to sleep for that. God.
Yeah, so
Wow.
and so I'm like, all right, well
Yeah.
let's
Wow.
do it.
Because here's the thing, though. When you're doing intubation at somebody, the doctor told me that it was such a rarity because normally when they intubate people, they're knocked out.
Yeah, they're
They're in
usually
a
like
coma or
in a
something
coma
like that.
state.
So he was telling me that Noah was the first person that was intubated that he knew of who was actually awake and alert.
Mhm.
Because most people are out cold.
Oh my goodness.
So
So he was the first one that he had seen that was actually awake and alert during that.
yeah, so
So that
yeah.
was crazy.
So I remember so they you know they had the whole countdown thing. They put the mask on my face and then you know I'm laying in the bed because of with all the people around me because I'm like okay as soon as I pass out they're gonna start the procedure just because you know once I pass out it's like I'm probably done breathing so they got to move quick and so
Oh snap.
yeah I remember
But you're still gonna breathe the same,
yeah
but
yeah
they can't have you awake while they're
yeah
shoving the
so
tube down
whatever
your
it is so
throat.
but I
God.
remember like they put the mask on my face. I passed out and then I remember like I could physically feel it a little bit going into my throat and I remember waking up in the middle of it because I was thrashing
You're
around a
like, oh
little.
no.
Yeah, well, I was thrashing around a bunch, and then I remember hearing them say, "They're like, no, they're like, you're gonna hurt yourself. We need you to go back to sleep. We need you to relax. We need you to
Oh my God.
sleep."
Mm-mm.
And then so I'm like, and so I just tried to stop moving, and then just went back to sleep. And then the next morning that I woke up, at that point, I don't know, it was like it was weird. For me, it was like getting intubated was like the threshold of because I remember still being able to move a little bit. Like my vision was blurry but manageable. Uh, and then like I was still able to move my arms a little bit. But after I woke up the next morning from being intubated, I couldn't move my arms at all. And I remember my vision being completely out of whack at that point. And so for me, I was like, well, I was like, that was like the moment that like everything was at its peak of, you know, like full blown, like
Oh Christ.
I was from head to toe and like
Mhm.
woke up with a tube down my throat and like you know all the cords and everything hooked up to me. So
And it's like that
oh,
was the picture that I got when I went home. Because
Oh.
after everything was done, the doctors were like, well, there's nothing else that you can do now. You guys go home and, come back in the morning. And I'm just standing there and I'm looking at my baby with all these cords everywhere and just so, I don't know, it was just such a weird thought seeing him just laying there like that, so listless and lifeless.
Mm.
And I'm like thinking to myself, we are not doing this again. We are not doing this again. And Sydney's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and go home. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I go home? I don't know how I go home. I got to go home, but I don't know how I do this. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm at home and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? It was crazy. It was crazy.
hmm
Gosh, guys.
yeah.
It happened so fast. I remember all of this,
Mm-hmm.
but it
Mhm.
just there was no there was no definition of time. That's how fast
Yeah. It
everything just
like
bam, 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 bam.
it's great. The next minute it's the worst it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's like
yeah,
at that point, so it was almost a relief in a way for me, like to get into intubated because it's like at that point that was like the start of me like actually being able to get on like some real medication. And so it's like once I got to the hospital, they had me on morphine and fentanyl.
Yeah, he had
And
some real
yeah.
medication.
And so
holy crap.
yeah, so it's like between the morphine and the fentanyl, I was actually like relieved
Able
of
to sleep.
yeah, I was actually able to sleep finally, which sleep was still rough. I mean, sleeping in a hospital, it's like any time you talk to a doctor, it's like sleeping in a hospital is just difficult period because of all of the
They're
beeps,
always checking on you and
all of the noises, all of the sounds of the machines, and like, nurses and doctors walking in your room periodically and just like checking on you and all of that. But eventually you get used to it. But yeah, I was finally able to actually like get some rest, which caused my emotions to level out, which is what I really needed at that point. Because at that point it was just mental fortitude from that point on for myself because whenever you're intubated, the tube's going into your mouth. It's like there is no talking anymore at that point. The tube,
Yeah.
and when you're in that position, most people are knocked out. They're in a coma.
yeah. So it's like there is no talking while you're intubated, which, you know, it was interesting because it's like, uh I was even though I was on all of this hardcore pain medication, I was still completely coherent the whole time. At this point, I was I don't know why, but yeah, I was more relaxed in that state than I was in those first 3 days by far.
Well, I
You know,
think the medication helped
yeah, I
with
mean,
that
definitely.
too.
It's not like I'm sure
But I can relax.
being zooted out of my mind on morphine. I'm sure.
Hey,
Relax
yeah,
Like, eh,
just a little bit.
yeah,
yeah, and it cut
You
the anxiety
yeah,
part, right? The part of it all.
yeah.
Wow. So when you okay, so they give you the morphine. It's already 12 o'clock, and I said we're in the morning. We're in the morning of the next day, and you get some sleep.
Hmm.
Then when you are you able to wake up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I woke up the next morning and
How
like,
did that feel? Like all of a sudden you're like you wake up, you're like, oh snap, I'm still here, like
well, I mean, it's
in this
interesting.
hospital.
Well, whenever I went to sleep, I didn't have a tube down my throat. And then when I woke up, I did. And so like I woke up, I felt everything in my mouth and all the cables and all that. I was like it happened. And so at that point I'm like now I'm just thinking about okay, so what are we going to do to get better? And so, that's when,
Because
the
you
doc
could think now, huh? Because you literally got some sleep, so now your brain's
yeah.
like, okay, okay,
Now
this is
I'm
what we're gonna do.
is
Oh wow.
just okay, like what's next after this? And the doctors were very good at communicating with me. They're like, okay, this is what like to uh there's only two treatments to heal from like Guillain-Barré. And I think it was like they tried the
Yeah, we
first
we talked
one in the
about both
first
of
three
them,
days, like, or whatever it was. They tried one of them
and it wasn't
and it
really
wasn't
working.
really working. And then whenever we went to the bigger hospital, I think that's when they tried the second one, which is, it was like, I forgot how many days. It was like a few days of this treatment, like this drip treatment or something that they had to mix in with, my saline
The
and
IVs.
IVs and all of that. And so there wasn't anything other than that, and then just physical therapy and occupational therapy that was going to help the recovery.
What was this that they were putting in the drip? What was that?
I don't know. It was called like immunoglobulin.
How do
Goblin.
you remember this? Is this put on your
Immuno,
mind that you remember these terms?
immunoglobulin, I think was the name of it.
Goblin or something
Something
like
like
that.
that.
Oh, okay.
It was so basically again, remember like Guillain-Barré is whenever your immune system attacks your nervous system.
So
And
it's
Hmm.
trying to
basically,
fight back.
yeah, it starts to
Oh,
kick it back, but it also starts to, I guess, help me with the process of regrowing that myelin
oh,
sheath,
that shield
yeah,
over the
that's around the
nerves.
so
And
Um,
again, his neurologist that he had never treated a case before. This was
yeah.
one. So everything was,
it was new territory to a lot of
it was
people.
brand new.
Yeah. It's like
That's why I'm asking you to explain the different steps that you're going through because like they can actually have a video to look at to if somebody else ever comes up with it. Oh, dude is showing these symptoms. Look, this is what it is. Kind of
yeah.
since you were the first,
Well, it's like,
you know.
they had textbook knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They studied
Mm,
it. They had textbook knowledge of it, but no actual knowledge,
Hmm.
yeah.
firsthand knowledge. So he was
Oh.
Yeah.
firsthand
I believe
knowledge.
like the two different versions were like IVIG, I think was the name of one of them.
I think you are
And then it
correct.
was like immunoglobulin, which was the other one or whatever it was. But basically, yeah, so they explained to me it's like you're gonna have a few days of having to do this. Once it's done, it's done. And then it's
And then we
just
just wait
and
and
then you
see.
just yeah, recover from there. And
Okay.
and then like they were good with letting me know what the possibilities were without calling it an absolute. There were a couple doctors that were, a little too blunt, but they're
Hmm.
for the most part they told me they're like, well, they're like, here's what could
And they
happen.
were removed too.
Yeah, but it's like it was different because like I said, the majority of people that end up with this condition are older people. It's not as often because I've met people who have had it before, but we're all, older, So I had that on my side also that they're like, you're 20 years old,
Healthy,
yeah,
strong.
and athletic. They're like, so your chance of recovery is much higher than than most people. And so, yeah, that was that was like my first day off of it, which I remember.
And
I remember also it's like, on that first day I had to experience like, a couple of new things that were very tough. Like I first found out the hardest part and the most painful part of being in the hospital was getting one, my sheets changed, and two, whenever I had to use the bathroom and then get cleaned. Those were the two most painful parts because it was nerve damage. The first time that I can't remember if it was the first time I had my sheets changed or the first time that like I went to the bathroom and like had to get cleaned, but they turned me on my side and like immediately it just felt like somebody was just like blasting me with a baseball bat. And like if I remember correctly, which I believe it was like the first time I ended up like seizing up a little bit and passing out because I don't remember
Yeah,
it
you
finishing.
did.
Like I remember passing out from the pain just being too excruciating.
oh my
And then
gosh.
like waking up when it was already like waking up when it was finished. And I was like, well, that sucked. So
What event triggered that? What event was that?
That was I think they were just trying to change
yeah,
him.
they were just trying to like clean me
They were
up.
just trying to change him, and he passed out because it was just too painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was everything. So it's like I was constantly uncomfortable because of my back pain. Like because I still
Mm.
had that same pain in my lower back that started it all. If anything, it was just a little bit worse. But I it was like them physically moving me and turning me. That was the worst pain that I experienced in the hospital.
And they had to continue to move him and do all of
Right.
physical therapy
Yeah.
because
Right. And that's so stuff doesn't atrophy, right? That's just so you still have movement. And
so there was somebody that came in
oh,
every day that was, just moving his arms, moving his legs, and they had us doing it too. So he was constantly trying to, keep the limbs being moved and move the body. So
and that was painful. Was that painful too?
Um, yes, but not as painful. It was a
Because
different.
it wasn't moving your back. It wasn't moving you
Well,
on
it
your
was, yeah,
side.
it was a different type of pain. So it depends on what they did. Like there were days where we would just stretch my legs up, to stretch out my hamstrings and hips and things like that.
I mean,
Which
literally when with the physical therapist, she just come in and just raise his arm up and down.
yeah, it wasn't anything major at first. It was just because we had to work in baby steps up to all of that. But in the beginning, it was just keeping my arms moving so that I don't lock up, get my legs moving so that I don't lock up, move my knees towards my chest so that I can open up my hips and everything, and just little things like that so that I didn't seize up. And so it was just I had to do that like once or twice a day, and and then like I had to get my blood drawn twice a day. I had to get my blood drawn at like 5 a.m. and then I had to get my blood drawn at like 7 p.m. or something like that.
And
So
were they doing anything for because you were talking about your vision?
mhm.
Were they doing things with like, okay, look over here, like keeping those muscles moving in the eyes?
No, nobody knew because I couldn't tell anybody. It's like
Oh, snap.
that's
Didn't find that out until
yeah, nobody
afterwards.
no no nobody knew I was crossing
Oh,
until I could communicate. And
oh
so
man.
it was funny because like I couldn't really tell anybody because I like again
Yeah.
I hadn't figured out how to communicate yet, which we eventually later down the road did find out how to communicate, but nobody knew that my vision was messed up also. They all thought it was just everything else. And so it's like they would turn things on the TV and I'm just laying there. I'm like, can't see the TV, but I'm
I
not
do now.
telling them. So I'm like, this is just more for everybody else. And again, it's like I was completely there mentally, and so
Mm-hmm.
there were times where like my brother, like if there was like a new trailer for like a movie coming out or a TV show, it's like he would come up and he would be like, "Hey, look at this," and he would hold the phone in front of me, and like I'm just like looking at it. He's like, "Looks pretty cool, right?" And I'm like, "Nah."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Right."
And can you literally not see it
Oh,
or?
again, my vision was blurry and
Mm-hmm.
cross-eyed. And so I saw double of everything, and everything was blurry. And so the only way that I could see clearly ish, like the only way that I could see you straight on
Mm-hmm.
if you stood on the side of me. Like I couldn't see clearly if you were standing in front of me. You had to stand on the side, which in the end worked out well because it's like nobody, like whenever you have people visiting you, nobody stands in the front of your bed. They always naturally come to the side of your bed.
Thought about that, yeah.
So it's like that. It worked out because if I had a visitor, they would all come stand on the side, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I could see them clearly. But it's like it was only when people were directly in front of me that I couldn't really see you.
Man, thank you for today. We're gonna go for a break again because we're at the hour point, but
I was thinking about it as well.
wow.
I talked to Angelica yesterday
Will
about
she talk to us?
well, I mean, she's interested. We just got to figure out the times and the dates. But I also was thinking about it earlier just now that I would like to. I mean, obviously, I've heard their perspective more, but I would like to see if maybe Nicholas and Sydney also could talk about it with
Yes,
well.
That would be great.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, well, we will contact their people.
yes,
Their people will contact our people, and our people will contact their
There
people.
you go. See how we're speaking this into existence? But no, really, thank you for today. I know this took a little bit out of your Sunday.
Another one.
So and you could go out and do your thing. But no, this is good. So I'll just remember we're at day 3, moved over to the hospital and
We're on-
intubation.
yeah, we're on
Yeah,
line 4.
yeah. In my mind, I'm just all right. Well, Thank you, everybody, for joining us at the beach house. And
subscribe. Make sure to hit that like button and make sure to share.
Please. Really.
Buddy, share it with somebody.
So you have that like planned of who says what? It's like,
no,
but we just go with it. We just go with it because
it's called magic.
Next time, I want you to say the like and subscribe and share.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
I do most of the social media stuff, so that's what's on my mind. It's like,
hey, I'm cool.
Get it out.
I'm cool with it. I'm the interviewer.
You're excellent at bringing us back on track, and
thank you.
Being like, all right, we're trailing off. So we last left off. Yeah, let's center back up.
Oh my God!
I'll in the hood. Yes, it is.
Yes. Well, you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. It looks like the sun is shining, so hey.
Sun is shining.
Oh,
we have blue skies.
Oh, so that's all fake. Okay, that got you.
we have blue skies today, thankfully.
Yeah, blue skies? All right. That's all I want to hear.
Weather in Texas has been crazy.
Yes, I hear.
And we will see you all next time on the Beach House with Mo and Steph.
Bye.